In these situations, clarity without guilt or doubt is your protection. Clarity without guilt or doubt is your protection. Okay. And everything, get an understanding, get clarity. How you address this thing around psychological manipulation or emotional gaslighting. You pause and you name your truth internally, know what you're feeling, right? This doesn't feel honest or clear to me. This is what you might say to yourself. And then you want to set a firm boundary. Okay. I'm open to dialogue. I am open to having my experience rewritten. Okay. I'm open to dialogue. I am not open, I am not open to having my experience rewritten, right? Don't let anybody come in and say, oh, you just tripping. That's not what happened. Well, let me look at this for myself and see. Trust your inner clarity over distorted narrative, okay? Give me 1 second. And so I don't know, there's lots of things that could cause us to feel like we're having some type of situation where there could be psychological manipulation or emotional gaslighting. Like we hear them every day over the internet, all of these things that happen. But there are ways for us to maintain our sense of clarity through that. And spiritual protection is one of them. We could write down. Writing is very effective, like to keep a journal of what's being said and what you know to be true, right? There's ways that we can burn false narratives as a means of energetic release. If it's something that you just need to get off, that it may be some things that you're working with mentally within yourself that you are working through. One thing's for sure is we can't hold other people accountable, especially as it pertains to our healing. Like sometimes there's things that we need to take accountability for. As it pertains to our perception, how we're perceiving things. Because sometimes we can gaslight ourselves. We can manipulate ourselves in certain situations. So we have to get clarity within ourselves. And if it is something that we need to really work through, we can find ways to spiritually protect ourselves. Like you can write down, certain narratives that keep repeating that you want to release and then burn them as a spiritual energetic release. And then we have energetic outreach. If someone regularly invades your time, space, or energy with demands that are not part of your role or expects emotional support that you did not agree to provide, you are not obligated to carry their spiritual weight. Just because you can hold it does not mean that it's yours to hold, right? Going back to that situation, I'm going to keep coming because this is one that is like my pet peeve. Like I can't. I just can't. People that want to come and just offload their garbage onto you when it comes to like gossip and just a lot of rhetoric that has nothing to do with you. It may not even have anything to do with this person, but for some reason they feel necessary to carry this and to offload it. Like, don't come and download your garbage on me. I don't want to hear it, right? If it's not uplifting or if it's not something you're personally involved with or you have to solve something you need help solving, don't come to me with a lot of garbage and riffraff and vomit your garbage up on me because I'm not going to carry it. Matter of fact, I'm not even going to receive it. That's the quickest way for me to walk away, And so when it comes to people wanting to have you carry their spiritual weight, and I don't care if you are someone who has that very inviting energy. Maybe you do carry a beautiful sense of balance between your work life and your spiritual life. You represent that very healing energy, which means you're going to attract broken people. You're going to attract people that are looking for healing. But just because you are able to carry it, just because you're able to help, does not always mean that you are obligated to do so. Right? It doesn't mean that it's yours to hold or to receive. Even when you can take a punch, it doesn't mean that you should stand in front of a fist, right? Just because you're strong doesn't mean that people get to come and pile things on your plate. No. Or when their life is falling apart or in shambles, they get to come to you because your life is good and clean. That's not how that works. The energetic impact is likely to be characterized by mental and emotional exhaustion, resentment, a loss of creative energy, and blurred boundaries. After an overreach has occurred, take time to recalibrate. Breathe, touch your solar plexus, and affirm, I release what is not mine. I reclaim my energetic sovereignty. And I kid you not, sometimes you will find yourself doing this every day when you leave work. Every day. Somebody may try it every single day, but it's like, no, no. What do I have? A sign on my forehead that says garbage can? You can come and dump your garbage on me? I don't think so. No, I refuse. And so you may find yourself doing these affirmations often, releasing energy that you pull from work. You know, not that you can't help people, not that you can't sit and be an ear, but get a feel, discern the intention behind what the person is wanting to do. If they're coming to try to tear somebody down or to keep some narrative going, like provide no space for that. But if they're coming to get clarity, to mend, to heal something, yeah, then you get to decide whether or not you want to be a part of their process. But get in the habit of affirming and releasing, right? Because it's not yours to carry. Even if you do help and offer some advice or you offer some level of assistance, release it and reclaim your energetic sovereignty, because that is essentially not yours to carry. But you clarify your capacity aloud, especially in cases where you are not available for that, for the discussion at the time, right? Clarify your capacity out loud. That's not within your role, or your bandwidth. That's not within your role. You are offering a boundary, not an explanation. You're just letting them know what it is. That's not what we're doing. And not only with the social aspect, this also applies to your role as an employee. Maybe you might have to have that discussion with your manager or somebody that is a supervisor, somebody that is over, your workload and is piling things on your plate that's not yours to do. I had this discussion with my son where he works, and they were adding certain things in that wasn't on the, the actual list of things that he got hired for. And it's like, okay. And he came to me one day, he was like, well, I have an issue because they're having me doing all of these things that it's not on, I wasn't hired to do it. And I was like, oh, okay. So what needs to happen then is you need to go and have a discussion with your manager about that. Let them know, in an honest discussion. You don't have to be mad and all that or have an attitude, but just open up dialogue about the fact that you were hired to do this and this and this. Unless they're willing to pay you more and add on more duties, this is what you were, hired to do. And so sometimes you have to have that discussion, whether this is personal at work, whether this is work related. Sometimes we have to have that discussion when there is that energetic overreach, when the boundaries, whether they are written boundaries, contractual boundaries, or whether they are personal boundaries that's been crossed. And then retaliation for boundaries. Chances are that before developing your spiritual hygiene practices, you may have unconditionally accommodated energetically inappropriate behaviors. If so, you can expect that your shift will not be well received. That should not be your concern. If your no is met with punishment, such as silent treatment, gossip, professional sabotage, or exclusion, it means you are no longer in alignment with the dysfunction. That is just your proof that that's not in alignment with who you are or where you should have ever been. That's just proof of it right there. These behaviors are a form of coercion, an attempt to bring you back into misalignment within your soul, right? It's almost like an attempt to manipulate. It's a power reach, right? When someone loses power, they do this type of thing to bring you back into their grip. Understand the mind games that are at play here, because a true leader honors boundaries, right? When you set a boundary, people don't get mad and retaliate. They say, oh, okay, I understand that. Hit me up when you're done, right? No problem. That's the responsible response to someone setting boundaries, not gossip, professional sabotage, exclusion, or the silent treatment. That's manipulation. A false authority fears boundaries. The energetic impact of who you could take, the form of who you could take, the form of fear-based compliance, inner silence, or spiritual contraction, right? And so understand, I think this is really good information because we really need to understand who we have in our midst as it pertains to the work relation and otherwise. Because remember, there's a whole dynamic that's happening at work. And a lot of it comes from our personal dynamic, from home, from upbringing. There's a lot that's being played out in the workplace, not just work. There's so much more at play. And so you really need to be aware and looking at everything, how people respond to when you say no, to when you feel like you need to set a boundary, or when you may not be available. Like how people respond will tell you a lot. It will tell you a lot. And how do you address retaliation for boundaries? Do not retreat into guilt. Remain grounded. Your boundary is holy. It is what it is. Sometimes we have to suffer the consequence of our boundaries, but the reward for that is acknowledging our own worth, right? It's reinforced. Acknowledging our own worth, okay? Someone else's lack of ability to acknowledge your worth does not deplete your worth. Sometimes it just lets you know how valuable you are. Okay, so don't get it twisted. Don't be guilty about it. Don't retreat into guilt, but remain grounded. Like stand flat-footed, especially if you know this is your truth and you're doing what is best for you. Remain grounded. Your boundary is holy. Okay, that just means that energy is not aligned with who you are. Right? That's all that means. And the quicker you get that out of your energy, the better off you will be. Matter of fact, you will find when you weed out those energies, things become much clearer and you begin to move forward faster as well. And you feel better. Name the retaliation if safe to do so. I've noticed a shift since I expressed the need. I am open to honest conversation because I cannot engage in punishment dynamics. So you can have the discussion if you feel led to do so. I've noticed a shift since I expressed the need. Like I noticed your change in attitude since I couldn't work that overtime shift that you needed me to step in to do because you had something else to do. I noticed a shift in your attitude. I'm willing to talk about it, right? Because I don't really get down like that. Like I don't play power, trips. If necessary, elevate the issue through appropriate channels. Again, if you need to escalate it, you can. And then affirm to yourself, no weapon of retaliation shall prosper. I walk in clarity, truth, and divine favor. Just let yourself know this is not my problem, not my monkeys, not my circus, right? You have nothing to do with you. You do not have to carry the weight of someone else. Okay, it's basically is what she's saying. When it comes to racial, gender, sexual, or spiritual, micro or macro aggressions, any environment that condones discriminatory jokes, coded language, subtle bias, or spiritual ridicule is not simply uncomfortable. It is unsafe. Okay, understand that. Your identity is sacred. You are not called to dim your light to survive a dim room. The energetic impact of such an environment is cultural harm. It is spiritual trauma. It is shame, hypervigilance, and soul silencing, right? You don't have to swim in rivers just because people can't swim in the sea, right? You don't have to resort to swimming in the river just because they don't know how to swim in the sea, in the ocean, right? And so this is serious, like it really is. And I think sometimes we forget the power of the tongue, the power of action, the power of intent, how it can actually go further than intended. And I'm reminded of this show that it was called, 13 Reasons? 13 Reasons. And it was about a group of high school kids. And there was some type of rumor that got spread. I can't remember about one of them. And it blew up so big and it got so, it's kind of like that game that we play telephone, right? And it got so big and so out of proportion and just so exacerbated that one of the kids ended up unaliving themselves. And so the whole show is about this situation and how it unfolded and how everybody played a part in how they reacted to this rumor, and it's kind of like bringing that up for me. Like, we don't understand the ramifications of our actions and how it can really exacerbate and turn into something really huge. Like, it's a big deal when it comes to how we are addressing things and how we're relating to each other and how we are behaving in the workplace or in a school or anywhere where there are these different dynamics. I feel like school can sort of kind of be like a workplace too, because we have those same dynamics there that get played out. But we have to really think about what we're doing and how it's affecting other people, what we're saying, how we're responding and reacting to people. But if you are on the receiving side of this, ways that you can address it is that you can name it if you feel safe to, or document and report it with discernment. Okay, with discernment. Okay. And then you can calmly speak your truth to the moment. That comment felt dismissive and out of alignment. My request is that you not say that again. Don't do that again. And then you can call upon your ancestral and divine support in your spiritual practice, understanding that you do not walk alone. That's a whole nother subject. Don't get me started. Listen, only if they knew. Only if they knew. Silently affirm, my identity is sacred. I do not shrink. I stand rooted in generations of strength. This is not just about me. This is about a whole line of unfolding that is showing up through me. The places that we get to stand, people died. Oh my, people died so that we can stand in these places and do the things that we do, that we would have the freedom to decide how we will be able to earn money and spend it, how we would be able to live our lives from day to day, how we would be able to choose the most simplest of things, the most simplest of practices. Like, don't get it twisted. Take none of this lightly. And sometimes we do forget where we've come from and what people had to endure to get us here. But this is not just about you. Not only that, there's many generations coming after you that you're setting the precedents for. Make sure that you are on the right side of the coin as you are accumulating these karmic situations, right? And so your identity is sacred, whatever that is. You do not have to shrink, but stand rooted in generations of the strength that came before you. This is not just about you. Okay. So we need to be curious about people and not be so quick to judge. Be curious. Know what you're talking about before you just look at someone and decide to make a judgment about their race, their gender, their sexual orientation, their spiritual makeup, right? Then when we talk about chronically misaligned leadership, if leadership consistently models fear, confusion, a lack of vision, or misalignment without humility or growth, you must recognize that remaining too long under unclear authority may lead to spiritual disorientation. Misaligned leadership breeds spiritual stagnation. It is not good spiritual hygiene to follow someone into the dark when their leadership skills are lacking. Your clarity must come from within if it cannot come from above. A loss of personal and professional direction, spiritual dissonance, feelings of helplessness, and moral injury often characterize the energy impact of this experience. How to address it? Discern your role. Are you being called to speak truth, hold neutrality, or prepare to exit? Should you speak? Right? So this is not just something you just fly off the whim. Like, this is serious, because we also need to understand the place that we hold, right? There is a level of respect that we owe leadership, and we have to remain and understand like where we stand in that picture. And I'm huge on respect. Like, I don't care like if you are the janitor or the CEO, I'm going to respect you. Matter of fact, I go out of my way to respect those that don't hold high positions, because I just feel like there's a greater sense of value for those that serve us, right? Service to me is more valuable than position, high position. You know what I mean? But at the same time, I also understand the respect aspect that I am obligated to give to those that hold position above me. Like, I'm not going to talk to people any kind of way. I could, in fact, be, you know, older. That doesn't mean that I need to have more respect than somebody younger that has a higher position. Like, I feel like there is a lot of energy and time and experience that goes into a position that warrants a level of respect. And so we have to give it. And when it comes to having an issue, maybe needing to say something, we have to be discerning with that. We don't just blurt off the tongue and just say anything. Sometimes we pray for an opportunity to have a discussion, to be open, right? Or we pray to get direction. Should anything be said? Or is it maybe just none of my concern? Maybe there's something being worked out, you know, with that person. But are you being called to speak, to hold neutrality? Maybe it's none of your business. Or prepare an exit. Maybe this is out of alignment for where you're supposed to be. We have to ask these questions and be guided. And then when it comes to chronically misaligned leadership, we have to understand how to address it. We can limit our energetic fusion too. Don't absorb leadership confusion as your own failure, right? Disassociate if necessary too. And then lastly, speak up where possible. I'm seeking clarity on the directions we are taking. Without it, it is a challenge for me to stay aligned, right? There's a way that we can address things and say things. And then when it comes to spiritual protection practice, we can place our hands on our heart daily and ask if this is still my assignment, or is it time for this experience to be released, right? We asking for guidance, not assuming that we're right and we know best. No, we don't want to approach it with ego, because it's not about ego, right? This is serious work. And so when we look at the conclusion of all of this, the workplaces are built on a hierarchy where power is distributed unevenly. The structure of many workplaces rewards silence, which means that speaking up can feel like risking access, reputation, or security. It's not that most people do not see or even experience the distortions. They remain quiet because they believe naming them will cost them something they cannot afford to lose. Tolerating energetic distortion is not a spiritual virtue. It is a spiritual leakage. Tolerating energetic distortions is not a spiritual virtue. It is a spiritual leakage. In the workplace, energetic distortions are the twisted or unhealthy dynamics that arise when truth, equity, and integrity are bent out of shape by power imbalances. They show up as patterns that feel normal within the culture of a workplace, but are, in reality, misalignments that harm both people and spirit. Examples of distortions in these senses can include silence being rewarded over honesty, favoritism or bias disguised as fairness, exploitation that is framed as dedication or loyalty, disrespect masked as authority. To accommodate harm, we're at 2 hours. Oh my. To accommodate harm in any content text is to abandon your inner altar in the name of outer peace. Spiritual hygiene does not oppose structure. In fact, it is designed to elevate it. It does not reject toxic workplace customs. It aims to provide you with the foundation and tools to infuse any space with soul, integrity, and awareness. From childhood, many people have been taught not to question authority, to be agreeable, and no matter what, don't rock the boat. That conditioning creates spiritual passivity in the workplace, masquerading as professional responsibility. We carry these silent contracts into the workplace and refer to them as being a team player. The truth is, tolerating, accommodating, avoiding, and denying energetic distortions in the workplace is the way to abandon clarity for the illusion of honesty. When workplace distortions persist, everyone is affected, whether they recognize it or not. The greatest cost is that the nervous system adjusts to dysfunction and begins to call it normal. Silence then becomes a shelter for toxicity. The body carries what the voice has been unable or unwilling to release. Those who live with grace, compassion, or healing energy often find it challenging to initiate confrontation of the distortion, as their natural orientation is towards peace and harmony. Their instinct is to soothe rather than challenge, which can lead to confusing avoidance with compassion or mistaken silence for grace. Yet true grace does not mean accommodating harm. It means standing in truth while rooted in love. Without this integrity being, without this integrity, without this, excuse me, integrity begins to leak, confidence quietly erodes, and the soul whispers, "This is not who I am." Each time distortion is tolerated, a fragment of truth is traded for a false sense of belonging. Left unnamed, compromise hardens into contract, and sacred ground is surrendered. So, one of the things I wanted to share, and I'm going to have to cut this off and open up a whole nother part two for this because it's so long. I still have quite a bit ways to go. But one of the things that brought me to where I am today in my workplace is this exact situation. I got to the place where I had to just surrender, right? And I found myself walking into work one day, and I was part of the management team where I worked. And I just walked into work and I just dropped my keys and walked out. And one of the managers at that time wanted to know, well, what happened? Why are you leaving? Interestingly, the one that was part of this compromising energy that was very disempowering, lack of integrity, power hungry, and just really disingenuous for the most part. And I could no longer be a part of it. You know, I cannot stand in a place where people are being mistreated. There was a situation where I overheard a conversation of one of the older, more mature employees that should actually be part of the energy that's welcoming and building people up. This was a person that was, in this particular company for a while. So they knew a lot. They had a lot of experience. And I overheard her having a conversation with some of the younger employees, literally threatening them. Right? It was kind of like that energy of the manipulation. What was it called? It was the energy of the psychological manipulation or emotional gaslighting. And the conversation went a little something like this. Oh, if when people cross me, and there was like maybe 3 or 4 young people listening, and she was telling them, for lack of better words, it was kind of like a threat. You know, whenever I have situations where people cross me, I just call all of my sisters and they'll be here in the parking lot, right? In other words, you know what that meant. And I'm like, well, what is the purpose of that? Like, why would you feel the need to say that? What is your intent behind that, right? And I've heard this type of demeanor several times. Not only that, she's taken on some racial jokes with me, using the word, what was it? Segregation several times. Not talking about race, but talking about like products. But I understand many times on a deeper level than people realize, though I don't think she was trying to hide it. I think she was really being very trying to let me know her ideas and her values in a very slick way by using those words to describe what she was doing. And I read into it. And so I found early on, I can read, people in a very interesting way, but I kind of read it early on, even before she began to display these type of characteristics, like the type of person she was. But not only did she do it to me, she would do it to everybody, especially the young people. And I was just like, that was just one of the things. There was just a lot of other things that happened with me being there, a lot of racial discrimination as far as, the community itself. And so it was very mentally stressful, psychologically overwhelming. And it got to the place, especially as I began to really heighten in my awareness. Like it got really overwhelming and overstimulating to the point where I was like, there is no way that I'm meant to be here to do this. And I got to the point where I woke up one day and I received a message like, today is going to be your last day. And I was like, okay, but I'm a good worker. I'm a hard worker. I show up when I'm supposed to. I'm very um, predictable, right? I show up when I'm supposed to. I don't take a lot of time off. Like, as a matter of fact, I work more usually than I'm supposed to. Like, I'm a good worker. Like, and I have no doubt that they probably had a hard time replacing me. But I woke up one day and spirit was just like, this is going to be your last day. And I was like, okay. And so I did exactly what I heard. And I went and I dropped my keys. I was like, I'm out today. I will not work. Yesterday was my last day. And the person that was actually managing at that time, she came to me. She was like, so what happened? Like, why are you leaving? Wouldn't you like to know? You wanted it. You got it. Right? You wanted it. You got it. You wanted complete control. You wanted full autonomy. You wanted full ownership without sharing responsibility. You got it. Right? And I walked away and I never looked back, and I don't miss it. And like, no one ever put their hands on me. No one ever said anything directly to me that was disrespectful, but the energy was disrespectful, and the undertones and all of the secret messaging and all of that stuff. It was too much. I don't think anyone should have to deal with that. And it never crossed my mind that I should call like HR, because it was more like a spiritual thing, right? And so I never looked back. I'm here where I am now because I had enough trust and faith, not only in myself, that I am worth more than that I've been called to more than that, but also having trust and faith in those that walk before me, in my source, right? As I was saying, I think sometimes we're called to places for a specific reason. And I did really well in being in that place for the time that I was meant to be there. And I think it was very purposeful. Not only was I there, but my family, I have grown kids. They work there too. Interestingly, they experience similar things too in their workplace. And all of my kids are hardworking, all of them, just like me. They will give 110%. And so when we walked away from this community, like I have no shadow of a doubt that the shoes will be difficult to fill, and sometimes when you mistreat people, you also have to deal with the ramifications of that as well. And I've never really felt like I'm somebody that has to take things into my own hands and I'm not doing all that. Like, I'm concerned with making sure that I am creating good circumstances and good karma. And so I take a lot and I sit back and I let, whatever needs to happen. I let the natural consequences take course, because who am I? Maybe I have been in a position to show people a different way. I don't know what the purpose is, but I tried as best I could to be a good steward of where I was at that time. But there came a time where I was released from that, and Spirit was like, today is your last day. Go drop them keys off, right? And I did, and I haven't looked back since then. And I've been brought to a place now that has tripled in, when I talk about abundance, I don't just mean money. That's a part of it, but it has more than tripled in my happiness, in my health, right? In my mental stability, in my spiritual growth. Like, everything about my life has just blossomed since I left that situation. And even to where I am today, like, never in a million years would I think that I would be where I am today, doing what I'm doing. And I really do feel like where I am provides such a great opportunity for expansion. If there was a glass ceiling, I don't feel like I have one right now. Like, the sky's the limit. That's truly how I feel. And so I have had this experience, that she's talking about. And even where I am now, not to say that it's all just peace and ladybugs and butterflies and sunflowers. I mean, it has its challenges. As she was saying, like anytime you have a group of people together, working together, we're all bringing all of our own stuff together. There's going to be some things to work through, but it's nothing like where I came from. I'll say that. But we're talking about spiritual hygiene in the workplace and understanding our responsibility to know who we are and to have a sense of energetic integrity no matter where we are. And I think I did a really good job looking back at where I come from. Where I am now is like a piece of cake. It's like, you know, night and day. I'll say that. This is a piece of cake. This is a cakewalk for me, honestly. So, and so a lot of my challenges really are from within. It's me dealing with me. It's not necessarily outwardly stressful. I mean, that is what it is. But I'm learning to understand again, it's all from within, right? But there comes times where we may be placed in situations like this where all this stuff is going on, and there needs to be a sense of clarity on the inside so that we don't lose ground, so that we don't negotiate or question our value, so that we don't forget who we are, right? And fly off the handle and go do some crazy stuff. Because there were many opportunities that I had to do some crazy stuff and respond out of ignorance, but I didn't. I held it together until I was released from that assignment. And it's just really nice to know that now I'm in a place where things are so different, and the energy where I am now as it pertains to my workplace is so beautiful. And there's just a lot of light. I'll say that where I work now. And so not that there's not work to do, there is, but it's really enjoyable. And I enjoy working where I am. So with that being said, I'm going to cut this short so that I can finish this chapter. Okay, so I'm going to flip over to my next video if you want to watch the rest. I'll see you over there. Okay. Okay, we are back for the second part of spiritual hygiene in the workplace. We were just talking about the conclusion of what we were discussing in this chapter around the hierarchies, around power, and our responsibility to really bring in the sense of balance with who we are on a personal level, on a spiritual level, with who we are in our roles in the workplace, wherever that is. And I was explaining at the end of the last video some of my experiences before coming to where I am now, which is so enjoyable. I do enjoy my workplace right now. I feel like I've been very fortunate to be placed in a situation with people that really align in many beautiful ways with where I am right now. So I'm enjoying where I am right now in my workplace. But to move into page 237 to finish off our reading, we were just talking about the conclusion, how when the workplace distortion comes in, how it affects everybody, right? And whether we recognize that or not. And it has a great toll, like on the nervous system, and sometimes just not really understanding the power or the consequences of small little, what we might believe insignificant acts or insignificant things that we bring to the workplace out of our own patterns and stuff. And then the need to really stand in our truth and be rooted and grounded, right? And even when that is not met with the same level of integrity or honesty, understanding who we are and reclaiming our sovereignty over who we are in those situations. And that's what I was just explaining with my last experience at my previous workplace from where I am now. The struggles in that workplace over kind of like everything that we discussed in this chapter. And the fact that I was able to make it through that stronger because I refused to relinquish my spiritual identity. That was stronger. That outweighed the experience that I had to endure. But in the spirit of sacred clarity, as we move forward in the workplace and in every environment where your soul is asked to show up, remember that you are not just a role. You are also a person. You are a present vessel of divine worth. And let this be your vow. that you will not accommodate what erodes your soul. There's no task, no title, no paycheck that is worth the quiet disintegration of your truth. Okay? Do not sell your soul. It's not worth it. Don't accommodate. What that's saying is, if there's something that don't sit right, maybe do a little bit of investigation on why that doesn't sit right. Don't just say, oh, well, it's going to pay me. So even though it's not sitting right and something feels weird or I don't necessarily agree with it, right? I'm going to do it anyway. Don't sell your soul. Do not tolerate what teaches you to betray yourself. When you stay silent in the face of harm, when you smile through dismissal, when you shrink to be accepted, you are not keeping peace. You're abandoning it. Okay? Don't get it twisted, right? Discern, rather. Instead of ignoring when something is done and you see that it's not right, ask, should I say something? Should I embrace neutrality, or should I maybe disalign myself? Maybe I should walk away, right? So don't tolerate what teaches you to betray yourself. There's some level of responsibility that we acknowledge in the face of wrong. To be complicit does not excuse us from responsibility. We see that every day, right? People being unalived, and then everybody acting like, oh, it's just nothing because of the color of their skin. They were in the wrong place at the wrong time. They should have never been in that neighborhood. Well, why not? When he was just jogging, minding his own business. It does not matter what neighborhood he was in. This is America. And the last time I checked, there is nobody that's able to create land. That is a natural byproduct of this gift that we call earth. So who are you to say where I cannot step? Who are we to try to classify people within the earth when we are all recipients of the beauty and the gift of the earth? A gift is not earned, it's given. We've all been given this. No, none of us created it. But to betray ourselves in the face of injustice erodes the soul as well. And as it pertains to the workplace, when we see things that's not right, when we hear things that's not right, we have to make a decision, period. There's no way around it. Ignoring it does not release you of the responsibility to make a decision, to act. What will your decision be? Do not normalize what your body rejects. The headaches, the clenched jaw, and the drop in your belly are not inconveniences. They are sacred messages from your inner altar. Your body remembers your mind tries to, or your body remembers what your mind tries to justify, right? Yeah, follow your intuition, and it shows up in many different ways. Sometimes it does communicate through our body. In these situations specifically that we're talking about today, where something comes up that doesn't sit right, it's saying, what she's saying is don't ignore it. It's coming up for a reason. If no more than just needing you to be aware of it, don't ignore it. And let it be known that your value is not up for negotiation. Your voice is not a disruption, but it has worth and value. Your peace is not a luxury. It is a necessity. Your boundaries are not a burden. Okay? It is your protection. Your light is not too much. It is a gift that you've been given to give to the world, not hide. It is your sacred responsibility to protect them all, not with harshness or with ego. This spiritual hygiene gives you the gentle power of a soul that remembers its true nature. When conflict arises, repairing the sacred cord. So as we know, whenever there's, a situation where we're all gathered and people are together, there is going to be conflict. There's never going to be all peace, all, butterflies and ladybugs and sunflowers. This is just not possible with people being gathered with people. There's going to be conflict. But what do we do when that arises? How can we repair sacred cords? Every intention or every interaction is a form of energetic exchange that creates a connection, a cord, or a disruption between souls. When someone in the workplace behaves in an unruly or harmful way, the connecting cord can fray. Your role is not to fix the cord. Your role is to remain clean in your own energy and clear in your own truth. The following practices are offered to support you in maintaining a clear inner altar, preserving your worth, and maintaining your peace in the workplace. First of all, anchor yourself. Before responding to a difficult person or situation, breathe deeply into your body. And then think silently, I will not match this energy. I'm not going to do it. I will return to mine. It's not my energy. And then place your feet on the ground or your hand on your belly to regulate your nervous system. It's just that simple. Being aware. Okay. Secondly, you can observe, don't absorb. If people or situations trigger or upset you, ask yourself inwardly, is this about me or is something else speaking through them? What is this moment trying to reveal or teach me? And what boundary or clarity is being summoned? What boundary or clarity is being summoned? This shift from judgment to observation neutralizes the energetic charge, right? You may have to do that too. Because again, you can't control how other people act or how they react. All you can do, maybe sometimes, it's just observe, like you see it. You don't have to respond to it. You don't have to interact with it. Like sometimes it just comes down to understanding you have to work with, but you don't have to interact with or carry it past that, right? We have to exist here to do a job that we're being paid to do. And that's it. That's just all. It doesn't have to go past that. And then secondly, what truth or what lesson am I learning through this? Sometimes we can draw lessons from, having to deal with difficult situations that we can't necessarily do anything about. And sometimes it's about boundaries too. Maybe there's a boundary that needs to be set. And then respond with clear boundaries without collapsing or escalating. Use clear language to address the behavior. Can we revisit this when we can both engage respectfully, especially if it's a heated situation or if it's one where your emotions are entangled and involved? It's like, okay, we're probably not going to be able to discuss this right now, but let's wait until the heat of this is over and then let's revisit it if need be, if that's the situation. Or you could say, I'm open to feedback and I cannot stay in a space where I'm being spoken to this way, right? Or you could say, I understand you're frustrated. I'm here to find a solution. It does not require that we gauge in conflict, right? This is what spiritual authority is in practice. It's not domination or retreat. It is a demonstration of embodied truth. Sometimes remaining focused, because the truth of the matter is we don't go to work to socialize or to meet people. Like that's just a byproduct of working with people. Like you have every option, every right to go and do what you need to do and then go home. Sometimes those are the boundaries you have to set. And if somebody is not in agreement with that, it's like, well, I'm open to hear, how you feel, but that may or may not change me setting this boundary. Sometimes you have to step into your spiritual authority, knowing what is good and best for you. So mending the breach is sacred repair. Once the heat subsides and the space is available for repair, you can consider these practices. Name what happened without blame. Use I language to describe your experience. During our last exchange, I felt a break in trust and clarity, or I want to revisit what happened so we don't carry unresolved energy forward, or I would like to just leave everything where they are. There's no hard feelings. I accept you as who you are. You accept me as who I am. And let's just leave it at that, right? Extend the olive branch without abandoning your truth. Sometimes you will want to move forward or carry things forward or seek some level of bringing things back together, mending things. In that case, you can use something like, I value our working relationship and would like to clear the air. Or I am open to hearing your perspective if you're willing to have that conversation, right? These would be very valuable in situations where you don't have an option, like you have to work. Maybe you're collaborating, or maybe there is a close working connection or relationship that you have where you have to divulge conversation and interaction with another person, but maybe there's some contention or disagreement or something happening like that, right? There is a way that you can extend an olive branch without compromising your truth or abandoning your truth, right? Establish energetic boundaries is one of the things that may be helpful. Moving forward, I would like us to make a commitment to use kind and respectful language, right? Establishing rules for the grounds where which you will work together moving forward. As an act of self-love, I want to share that I will step away from interactions that feel harmful and unproductive. Taking responsibility for your actions, right? Not just expecting the other person to behave or to take some energetic responsibility. You take the responsibility as well. You're not responsible for the other person's behavior. You are responsible for your own integrity. And you have the sacred responsibility to close the energetic loop within yourself. To mend a breach is not to forget or deny what happened. It is to weave back a strand of clarity, courage, and care, even if only on your side of the cord. Not every harm will be acknowledged. Not every truth will be received. Not every relationship will be restored. And you can still be clean. Okay. So there was a lady named Lydia who was a bright, capable presence in her organization, a woman of grace and high competence who approached her work as a sacred offering. She did not flaunt her gifts. She let her consistency speak. Lydia entered each day with reverence, treating her work like a prayer. Her spreadsheets were clean. Her reports were precise. Her feedback, when invited, was always thoughtful. Several of her peers had respectfully asked how she managed to bridge her spiritual life with the realities of professional spaces governed by human policy, hierarchy, and procedure. She told them, I stopped doing spiritual practices and became the practice. That the value of good spiritual hygiene, y'all know I'm tired of reading now. That is the value of spiritual hygiene. Some of them understood what that meant. Others needed more information and insight. They all, however, agreed on one point. They were glad she had something to protect her because her supervisor, Darren, was not kind. Darren led with control rather than clarity. He dismissed feedback, cut people off in meetings, and used pressure as his primary leadership tool. Most of the team had grown used to his behavior and silently adapted to avoid conflict. They concluded that and accepted that that was just who he was, and he didn't seem to have motivation to change. One day in a staff meeting, Darren harshly interrupted Lydia mid-sentence. That's not what I asked. Pay attention and just answer the question. Ooh, that's so harsh. Dang. The room fell silent. Not only did Lydia not deserve to be spoken to in that manner, but they had never seen or heard it before. Not like that. Not with her. Lydia's face flushed. Her throat tightened. She felt the old urge to shrink, to keep the peace, to disappear, but something in her refused to betray herself again. She took a deep breath. She placed her hand below the table to ground her nervous system, and with calm clarity, she said, Darren, I want to respect the direction you are offering, and I also want to note that being cut off in that way, especially in front of the team, was jarring. I would like to continue. To my request is that we keep the tone respectful. No anger, no collapse, just clean truth. Darren paused. He shifted in his seat and said, fine, go ahead. Everyone's gaze shifted to Lydia. Something had changed, not just in Darren, but in the entire room and in Lydia's soul. She was the youngest of 5 children who often had to fight to be noticed. On this day, in a toxic and distorted workplace, she had reclaimed her voice without weaponizing it. Later that day, she followed up with him privately, not with bitterness, but with grounded integrity. She asked if he was open to receiving feedback. When he agreed, she said, it is important that you know that I am committed to collaboration and clarity. It is also important for you to know that I work best in environments where dignity is mutual. Darren did not apologize. However, something in their dynamic shifted and softened. He interrupted her and everyone else less. He requested additional input from the team. Most importantly, Lydia never again abandoned her voice in any relationship or experience in her life. Lydia didn't change the workplace system. She changed her inner and outer stance. She did not yell or disappear or compromise. She stayed clean. She stayed clear. She stayed sovereign. This is the holy power of spiritual hygiene in professional spaces. It is a path to remain whole in the presence of distorted power. You may not be able to change the supervisor, but you may awaken the systems. This is what it means to live clean in unclean spaces. Now, let me just say, in places where you cannot remain clean, like this job I came to before I came where I am now, there was no help for that place. I'm convinced. So there is a decision you may be faced with. If this is something you can work with and assert yourself in, or is it something that you need to totally disalign yourself with? Know the difference, okay? Staying or leaving. A spiritual-led decision, a spiritual, unconscious, or uncaring supervisor, or an unbearing, gossiping coworker is not your enemy. It is not your job to awaken them. It is your job not to lose yourself in their unconsciousness, okay? They are your assignment, which is to face them without collapsing. They may misuse their role to dominate rather than direct. They may ignore emotional harm because it's just business. They may resist feedback, belittle boundaries, or dismiss concerns. They may lead through control rather than inspiration. The temptation is either to shrink, go silent, disconnect, and survive beneath their dysfunction, or to strike, lash out, correct them, or demand awakening. Spiritual hygiene offers a third way. It's neither one of those ways. Stay clean, stay clear, stay sovereign. This may mean evaluating if your time in the space has come to an end. There comes a time in every spiritual journey where your assignment and your environment begin to clash. You feel it in your body, the tightening in your chest on Monday morning, the dull ache of your spirit by midweek, and the soul whispering by Friday, this is not it. Yet you have financial responsibilities. You have people depending on you. You wonder if you're being ungrateful or impulsive. You ask yourself, is this fear or freedom knocking on my heart? Spiritual hygiene offers a sacred way to meet this crossroads. It guides you not to rush out of discomfort, nor to remain in misalignment of guilt, fear, or obligation. Instead, it invites you to pause and ask, is this space depleting me or developing me? Some environments stretch you, challenge you, and sharpen your voice. Others drain your life force. You must discern the difference. The second question is, am I shrinking myself daily to survive here? If you silence your truth, dim your gifts, or contort your spirit every day, you are not surviving, you are eroding. The third, do I feel more aligned when I imagine leaving or staying? Sometimes the call is to rise in the environment, not run from it. Other times your soul is showing you that your chapter is complete. And then lastly, am I staying for the love of what I do, or am I staying out of fear? Spiritual hygiene is not just about where you are, but how you are where you are. It is not always necessary to leave. Leaving is not the only path to liberation. You can stay and shift the energy. You can stay and strengthen your boundaries. You can stay and prepare your exit with integrity. You can stay and choose your peace every single day. However, when staying in a workplace begins to cost you your health, your voice, your dignity, or your connection to your spiritual self, it has become a sacrifice of your sacred self. This may be a price that is too high. If your sole guidance is to remain for now, spiritual hygiene is the way you can protect your inner altar. Yes. And so I just want to add, in my situation where I was led to leave, for me, it was the right thing to do, right? And I'm not giving that example to let you know, hey, if things are rocky, just leave, right? There's other options. Like, you have to discern for yourself what the right thing is to do for you. In my case, when I left, because I was led to leave, it wasn't a decision that I had made. I was planning to go to work the next day, and Spirit came and was like, no, you're done there. Your assignment is done. And I listened. And because I listened, there were things lined up waiting for me. Yes, I had a home to take care of. I had bills to pay. I had mouths to feed. Well, it was just me and one of my children. The other two are grown and on their own. But like I had things to do. But my relationship with spirit was at a place where I could trust. And I did trust. And because I did, right, I had things lined up for me. If this is something and you are discerning that you're being guided to leave, like the next steps are available for you. Even with Ayanna, she was talking early in the book about how she had 10 years developed in this career as some type of legal, doing some type of legal work. And one day spirit just asked her to walk away. My situation was a little bit similar, because I had endured a lot at this job. It was deep. It was heavy, but that was part of my making. I understand that now. And as I was saying, there were things that were lined up waiting for me. Like, you'll never be guided to do something that leads you to a place of desolation, a place of no resources or no, not having your needs met. And so when I came to the place where I was being asked to walk away, and I did, there was about a 7-week time frame between being starting where I am now. And even the way that I received the acceptance of this position was nothing short of amazing. It was almost like the position was just waiting for me to step into it. It was already given to me. I felt while I was having the interview, and it was a phone interview. And she pretty much was ensuring me that I had the job before I even really felt or knew I had the job. It was just so aligned. During that 7-week period between leaving where I was asked to walk away from and stepping into the new position, this was really time for me to heal. This was a transition between this place where I was into the better place where I was headed. And it was a time of healing that took place during that intermission, where I was allowed to really take care of myself in such a beautiful way. Not only that, I didn't have to ask for assistance. Like, spirit dropped so many resources in my lap. Everything was so aligned. It's almost like magic. Y'all hear me talking about magic a lot. It's because life is that way when you open up to it. It really is. Even to this day, there are things that are lined for me, just waiting for me to show up. It's just that deep. But I say that to say that I was asked to walk away, and I believed. And because I believed and did it, there were things that were just aligned, and everything just fell into place. I never had to go without. I never had to lack for anything. My bills were paid in that 7 weeks. I never lost any income. Even though I didn't work for that 7 weeks, like, everything was filled. The amazement of just being clean in a dirty space. You'll be taken care of, right? That's basically the gist of what I'm saying. And so, but you have to discern on what you're being asked to do. Not all the time are we being asked to leave. Sometimes we're being asked to stay and work in that situation and just maintain our spiritual integrity, right? That's what I did the whole time there. I maintained my spiritual integrity in that dirty space. And I do believe that I was a light in that space. And I'm not sure what happened after I walked away. I'm not even concerned about it. My job was done. My assignment was fulfilled. And when it was time for me to leave, that's exactly what I did. I shook the dust off my feet and I walked away. But in cases where you may be feeling like you are not being called to leave, right? You can definitely start your day with alignment. There are things that you can do to maintain, right? Start your day with alignment, not obligation. Like, before opening your computer or your laptop, before walking through the door of your business, you can say, and I do this when I first open my eyes in the morning, I set the precedence of my day. I enter this day whole, sovereign, and undivided. I am not what I do. I am who I be, right? Whatever that is for you. And take sacred pauses through the day. Step outside or put your hands on your heart. Take moments to stop and breathe. Speak affirmations to yourself. When you feel like you're kind of getting away from who you are, remind yourself through an affirmation, I return to myself, especially in situations that test your gangster. And people are going to do it. Maybe they don't even realize they're doing it. They're just being who they are without consideration of who you are. Remind yourself and return to yourself so you don't step outside of character. And then fortify your field. Visualize a sphere or globe of divine light surrounding you. As you establish the light around you, let the intention that nothing enters without your consent, right? That's spiritual protection, whatever that is for you. This is a suggestion, but however you visualize that or establish your protection, make sure you're doing that. And then affirm often, whatever those affirmations are, to remind you, my energy is my responsibility and I choose what stays, okay? Now, when it comes to making an exit plan with a clean heart rather than a wounded one, we're preparing to transition when that's the case. And we want to do so through devotion, not in haste, but create a sacred space and discern, like ask, what is my next aligned step? If this is not it, what is the next step that is aligned with where I am, where I'm supposed to be going? What do I need to become to receive it? And what sacred support can I call in during this transition? And I don't know, I'm just speaking, I'm starting to channel a little bit now, but for someone, Spirit is saying, like, you are going to be, especially if you're attending to your spiritual center and your spiritual hygiene, you're attending to spiritual things. When you begin to really hone in spiritually and start to cultivate your spiritual life and who you are authentically, you can no longer stay in dirty places. So it's just going to be a matter of time. If you are in a place where you feel like you can't wait to be called to the next step, the more you cultivate your spiritual being and your spiritual life and this sense of spiritual hygiene, it's almost like you begin to enrich who you are, enrich your light, enrich your energy. You can no longer stay in dirty places, in places that are not aligned with you. It's going to only be a matter of time before Spirit moves you, right? And I hear that for somebody. I don't know who that's for that's watching this. It's only a matter of time. Keep tending to your spiritual being, to your spiritual hygiene, and enriching your life spiritually and diving deeper within yourself and just really tending to your soul and your heart. It's only a matter of time where you are going to be pulled out of that situation, right? And so you may be asking these questions. You may need to ask this question. These are answers that are going to be coming to you when it's time to move, when that time comes, okay? Sometimes the workplace is your assignment, or it may be your initiation and preparation for something greater, that next thing. There are also times when you position in a certain place, doing a certain thing is your completion. You are complete with the pattern of thought and behavior, with self-abandonment, with scarcity and lack, and with fear as the ruling force in your consciousness. Whether you choose to stay or leave a workplace, good spiritual hygiene requires that you make a clean decision, one rooted in love, aligned with truth, and anchored in your worth. Whether you choose to share your time, gifts, and energy as work, always remember you were never meant to belong to the system. You were sent to bring light to it. There will be seasons when your outer environment refuses to shift, when people stay in their patterns, when toxicity remains normalized, and when you give your best only to be met with dismissal or indifference. This is where spiritual hygiene in the workplace begins, not as an ego demonstration, but as a devotional practice of inner sovereignty. Your spiritual hygiene is not meant to change others. It is meant to keep you clean while the world resists its own healing. Your soul did not come to life or to choose certain experiences to survive those systems. It came to transform you through them. When the space will not or does not shift, sanctify your tasks. Begin everything with intention. Before you answer the email or enter your meeting, before your hands touch today's work, return to the altar of why. May this task carry the frequency of clarity, care, and grace and service to something greater. Spiritual hygiene is not about creating perfect conditions. It is about staying spiritually intact when the conditions are imperfect. You are not falling when the outer does not shift. You are healing the world from the inside out. That takes time. It takes presence. It takes faith. Even when nothing seems to change, you are changing. And that, my love bugs, is holy. I love this. Yes. Spiritual hygiene the long way, baby. We not in this for trend. We in this for the long haul. We in this the long way. Okay. Ooh, if you're looking for a quick fix, baby, you in the wrong place. Because we in here for the long haul. Okay. But that's it for today. This was part 2. If you haven't read part 1, go back and read part 1. There's lots of good information in that as well. Spiritual hygiene in the workplace. Okay. Yes, I love this. Thank you, Ayanla. Beautiful book, Spiritual Hygiene by Ayanla Van Zant. Writer, teacher, coach, therapist, spiritualist. Like, she wears so many different hats. Amazing woman, teaching practical living for a practical path for clean living, inner authority, and divine freedom. Okay. All of these videos, we're heading into the end of the book. We're just about done. But all of these videos have been placed in my library. They are free for you to go back and access whenever you get ready. She talks about so much, and it all starts with healing. That's what this is about. It's about healing. That's why we're here. We're here to heal. Okay. And so, like, share, comment, subscribe if you feel led. That is the reading for the day. I have been on this thing for more than an hour, for more than 3 hours, y'all. This is a very strong, convicting chapter. So as you listen to this, you may feel uneasy, but it's for your good. Like, listen to your body. Ask questions of yourself. Like, especially if you find yourself in difficult situations as it pertains, maybe to the workplace. What is this teaching me? Like, what should I do in this situation? Do I speak? What is required of me? One thing is to remain in spiritual integrity, uphold your spiritual hygiene. That's what this is all about. Yes, we can do that in the workplace. It is possible. We are the temple, which means that everywhere we go, we take the light with us. Maybe you were placed there to change it, right? Who knows? That's for you to find out. And we will see you in our next reading. We have just a couple more, and that is our reading for today. My name is Letty, and it is a pleasure to share this work of healing with you. It has been so transformative, and I know this is going to be one that I refer back to often. This is definitely going to be a hitter for my library. And so thank you for stopping by and sharing in your energy with us today, and we will see you next week, same time, same place. Bye.